and it was tough. And my parents worked and scrimped and scraped, and we were able to move out to a much nicer neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. We weren't rich by any means, but we were surrounded by a lot of rich people. And it was like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, except I was a goofy Asian kid who played Dungeons and Dragons, had a bowl cut, did martial arts. If you can't think of a more stereotypical Asian kid that they'd want to beat on, it was me. And I was a little bit bigger for my size. So all the other Asian kids that were out there, I was like their protector. And so these country club boys that I went to junior high school with would just beat the tar out of me. And I was trying to protect everybody else. And, you know, my Asian friends, I'd stand up for them, and then the bell would ring, and literally while I was getting beat up, they would all run to class because they didn't want to be late, because, you know, good Asian kids aren't late for class. And I'm like, what? You know, I'm like, I'm here like 1 on 10 trying to protect y'all, and you're running in. And I really got to a point where I didn't even want to be, I didn't want to be me. I was embarrassed about who I was and the culture. I don't know if I ever consciously thought about taking my life, but I knew I didn't want to live. Like I just didn't, I read comic books so much because I just wanted to be somebody else. I wanted to be somebody like heroic, and I was like the worst. It's not just bad that you're in junior high school, which sucks for almost everybody, and you have braces and literally a bowl cut. Like, I mean, come on. Like that's one of my mom, I'm like, Mom, that was like literally like torture as a kid. And she was like, it was cheap. We could just, you know, save money. And so in the midst of just the worst time in my life, my dad worked with Billy's dad, who is incredible. Mr. Zabka ran the Tonight Show. He's a war hero. And he and my dad had business together. And so my dad would bring me over to the Zabka home. And everybody knew Billy. Kirk Cameron lived in the area. Ricky Schroeder lived in the area, which were big names back when we were young for Silver Spoons and all kinds of different shows. Well, Billy Zabka was the biggest of all them. He was the golden boy. Even though he played the thug in the movie, everyone loved Billy and Elizabeth Shue. And actually, most people didn't like Ralph Macchio at the time. I think I've heard Ralph's a nice guy now, but none of us really liked Ralph. But there I was, and I was just, again, bullied and broken. And Billy became my protector and hero. And Billy was a senior in high school. I was an 8th grader, and he, right, something like that in that area. Maybe I was in 7th or 8th grade. But he said, Sean, if anybody picks on you again, tell them that I'm your bodyguard. And I'm like, are you kidding? Sweet. Well, I think he thought maybe that would like keep them from hitting me and punching me because they were afraid of him and that he would come. Well, it worked, not in the way that he envisioned, but the next time I was getting thumped by a bunch of bullies, I was like, hey, leave me alone. Billy Zabka is my bodyguard. And they didn't say, oh no, Billy's gonna beat us up. They were like, say, come again? They're like, Johnny Lawrence, Billy Zabka? I'm like, yeah, do you know him? Yeah, he's my good friend. Could you get an autograph for him? No way. And I was like, I did. And pretty soon I went from being the total pariah to, hey, you know what? He's a cool kid. Like, if Billy Zabka's hanging out with him, he's great. Like a mascot, you know. I wasn't rich. I wasn't, you know, I didn't go to their country clubs, but they stopped beating on me. And then Billy like inspired me. He's like, you know what? You've got good size. You know, you're athletic. I don't think I was, but he told me I was. And I ended up becoming in high school captain of the basketball team, the volleyball team, played on the football team, had offers from colleges in all of those sports, and became a DJ and a rapper. And Billy, I remember seeing him at a club years later. He didn't even recognize me, but I thanked him. And I think he was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Super nice, super sweet guy. So this time he's coming in to Fan X, Dan Farr, Jeff Wright, and Abby Wright have this incredible, it used to be called Salt Lake Comic Con. I helped them when they first started. And I've been on their advisory board ever since. And I found out Billy Zabka's coming in to sign autographs as Johnny Lawrence. And Cobra Kai loved the show. I know many people do, and Utah loves the show. And so I said, hey guys, let me go pick up Billy at the airport. And and they said, yeah, sure, no problem. On our own time, some of my law enforcement guys, again, on their own dime, their own time, they'll go help and pick up and transport people from the airport. So I did it, and I wore my official law enforcement gear, and I picked him up, and his buddy Marty, who plays Sensei Kreese in the show and back in Karate Kid, he's there. He's just finished Dancing with the Stars, and he's like pooped and he can barely walk off the plane. So I'm carrying his bags, and Billy's like, wow, this is so cool that they sent a police officer to come get us, and no one else has ever done that at any Comic-Con. And I take them, and it's, yes sir, sir, yes sir. And he has no idea. Along the way, it's kind of funny because 3 or 4 people are like, hey AG, hey, how's it going, we love you, can we take a selfie with you? And they're taking a selfie. And he goes, they keep calling you AG. And I'm like, yeah, it's just, it's a term of endearment here for law enforcement. He goes, oh, okay, cool. And somebody else runs up, and they're trying to get my phone number. And will you speak at this event? And he's like, you're the most popular cop I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, just very friendly people. We love our law enforcement here in Utah. Anyway, I can only keep it going for about half an hour. He's like, where are you from? And I said, LA area. He goes, well, I'm from the Southern California too. And he goes, where? So I was born in Westchester, but grew up in the San Fernando Valley. He goes, what? I'm from there. And I'm like, really? Wow. He goes, what a coincidence. Where? And I tell him, he's like, that's where I'm from. Oh my gosh. And then I totally freaked him out. Well, I'm like, sir, actually, I knew that. And you live, I told him what street he lived on, where his house was, the layout of his pool, and his sister's name and his brother. And then he was like, wait, are you one of those stalker guys that like, no. And I reminded him who I was. And we had such a tender moment. As I went back and broke down my pain and what I was going through, he was so moved. He's like, I had no idea. I never knew that. He goes, that's so cool that I changed the life of a police officer. And I had to eventually clue him. And his buddy Marty's like, I don't think he's a police officer, man. He's like, everybody. So I tell him the Attorney General, and he's like blown away, like, no way. Like, he's like, just to think that I might have had a little part. And I was like, oh, it wasn't little. I can't tell you where I don't know exactly where I would have gone, but I do know that you totally changed the arc of my life.